Hey, what's up, everyone? I'm back again for some odd reason, but I want to take a few minutes. I want to do a real true quick hit, a real true hot take on the situation regarding the Trump tariffs, the Trump administration's tariffs that they recently rolled out as reciprocal tariffs. And now they're enacting them full swing ahead, and everybody's in a panic, rightfully so. But let's talk about what it means for the Black community. The first thing I do want to make out is that this tariff situation can be a little bit complicated. I don't think that they had any intention of making it less than complex and hard to follow. I think that's part of the program, and I'm going to show you a source that would also say that, yeah, that's part of the program. But I want to make sure that everyone understands the most simplistic and the basic concept behind what's really going on with the actual accruing of multiple different tariffs being stacked to come to today's forthcoming situation. So we're going to look at a couple sources just quickly to educate us in the most basic aspects of this tariff situation. The first one we're going to touch on is going to be, actually, believe it or not, Sky News. They did a terrific quick hit piece. We're going to listen to it for about 90 seconds, and they explain the whole deal really easily. Let's watch.
And let me just kind of start by showing you these bars are how high those tariffs, the US tariffs, are on various different countries around the world at the moment, or rather before Donald Trump came into office, and a quick kind of bit of revision on where we've come from so far. So threatened tariffs on Mexico and Canada. They were repeatedly threatened, repeatedly rescinded or lifted, but they might well be back again, who knows. But for the time being, they're gone. We know we got an extra 10% tariffs on China, China 1.0, then another extra 10% tariffs on China 2.0, you might call them, and we're now kind of waiting to find out what happened next, and we finally did find it out. Let's just start. There are two parts to this, okay? So first of all, there is going to be a 10% baseline tariff. So you see all of these bars go up by 10%, including, of course, the UK. But that, as far as the White House is concerned, is just a baseline. And then on top of that, there are different tariffs for different nations, what they call reciprocal tariffs. And they say they've gone through the numbers. They've looked at not just the tariffs that other countries around the world are charging the US, but also what they call non-tariff barriers, so other things. And they've worked out, by the way, Canada, those Mexico-Canada tariffs might well come back, so we might well start from that position. But reciprocal tariffs might push all of these bars, or will push all of these bars up considerably higher. So just look at how the picture of trade and tariffs in the US has changed dramatically as a result of these measures, which are coming in the next few days. And just to give you a few highlights of what we're talking about, so you could look, for instance, over there at China. So China, that's a 34% reciprocal tariff, but it takes the total amount, provided that goes on top of the existing tariff, it takes the total amount up above 50%.
Wow, above 50%. What does that mean? Well, does that mean all of a sudden your Temu and Shein orders are about to be really high to the point where it might be cheaper to go to Walmart? I don't know. I'm not saying that to be silly, but I am saying that that does sound like a big deal to a lot of people. What that's going to play out as exactly is still going to be remain to be seen, to be honest, because you really got to look at the factor of exactly how the money is going to play out for each business. And I'll talk about that. But there's one part about this whole situation we do want to touch on, and let's just give them another 60 seconds or so to explain.
President Trump has made it clear his goal is to bring manufacturing back to the U.S., but that could be a slow process.
This is just the latest episode in a years-long era of supply chain volatility that we have seen drive major firms to already shorten and diversify supply chains to the United States. We expect the tariffs to continue accelerating that trend. That being said, this uncertainty in trade policy, along with other areas, is driving a lot of other major corporates to pause investment decisions, pause leasing decisions, because of the uncertainty involved.
Economists warn.
So what the point there is that I want to point out is when I said when I said chaos, when I said that this is something that remains to actually see how it's going to play out, part of, I believe, Trump's entire plan here is to just sow chaos, right? It's to create so much indecisive, unpredictable economic noise that anybody attached to it will capitulate to it being brought down, to it actually finally stopping. It's like banging on the wall for no reason, just with the intention of getting somebody to beg you and being willing to do anything to get you to stop. There was no need to bang on the wall. But from the top of that video, what he said is that it was intending to bring manufacturing in to the US. The idea, though, unfortunately doesn't play out well from bringing manufacturing to the US because the companies are uncertain that he's going to keep these tariffs in place long enough that it will even be possible to pull those factories into this country, to set them up and to start production again. I tell you, being part of the auto industry, you got a good 18 months to go from zero to production at best case for a vehicle that's currently made in Mexico, and you have just plant capacity, but the plant isn't tooled up to run that vehicle. At best, you're going to bring those tools into the US, but you really can't afford to. So you got to you can't afford to stop production, that is. So you got to ramp up production in Mexico, build a big bank, then try to pick up tools and run them up here, get people trained, get everything set up. Listen, they don't even do it like that when it comes to relocating programs. They will build a second set of tools so they can continue running that original plant, and they got to get everybody ramped up in the US just to start building the same exact vehicle at the same quality level. You're looking at a year and a half. With that being the case, that means if you're going to wishy-wash every month about what the tariff amounts are, and if you're even going to impose them, if other countries can come here and negotiate those tariff amounts down or even away, then it makes no sense for companies to really invest their effort, let alone their real money, into trying to pick up shop and reshore jobs or reshore production here. And how do I get this idea that there's so much chaos on purpose, yet they're seeming to go away and go along with it? Well, there's yet another great piece that's available. You can find on YouTube from Money and Macro, which explains over the course of about 23 minutes why Trump's tariff program is pure chaos and what its real intention is from a big picture standpoint. Check it out. We're not going to play any of it now, but check it out. It's pretty good. And so with that being said, y'all, like, this is a mess, as you can see and feel. And none of the news outlets that we typically would follow, whether it be Black Enterprise or The Root or even NBC News, are going to stop short of saying that this is going to impact Black Americans the worst. They are right. It will impact Black Americans the worst. It will make our lives that much harder, especially for us in the lower portion of our already low socioeconomic place in this country. Now, people may not want to hear that. They may not believe it. They think we got all the money in the world and we just squandering it. It's not true, because it takes two things to move around this country. It takes actual income and it takes wealth. Some people get a W-2, but they actually got wealth sitting behind them. Some people actually live off their wealth from the interest alone. Whatever the case might be, the point is seriously that this is not a very simple game of, Black folks are going to be just as good as anybody else in this country. No, we're going to get it the worst, just like the pandemic, right? When the country catches a cold, we get the flu. You've heard that phrase before. But the reason why I touch on any of this right now is I just want to give a couple points for us to keep in mind as we start to go through this mess that this administration is cooking up, right? The first thing we need to keep in mind is the higher cost of goods that they're going to cite in a lot of these articles and a lot of these videos. They're going to tell you that a lot of the American public will have to they will be saddled with increased cost of goods. And of course, they love to look at the automobile as an example, where they can give you astronomical price hikes like $5,000 to $6,000 to $10,000 based on anywhere from 10 to 15 to 25% in tariffs being attached to the sticker window price, right? The window sticker price. But the thing is that they're always going to hold short of saying consistently is that these costs are not always going to be passed on to the consumer. And it is up to the company to determine if they will do that. I'm not saying that these costs are not real. I'm not saying that most companies won't pass them along. What I'm saying is that each company has to decide to do that, because some of these companies and some of these small businesses, it's already well known, probably will try to not raise their prices. And so they will eat the losses for a while because they want to have a stable revenue stream, and they don't want to alienate that revenue stream by increasing the price of their goods. So they're going to try their best to cut somewhere else to allow them to keep their prices the same. When we think about the impact of these types of tariffs on communities, and the fact that these tariffs will impact those who have the least the most, the fact becomes that we will be impacted due to our wealth disparity. And this wealth disparity predated these tariffs, and it predated Trump. It's been here since you were alive. So the issue is bigger than this tariff situation, and the companies can choose, and some of them will and won't, to pass along the cost. So it really is going to vary and depend, depending on who you are, how badly this is going to turn your world upside down. Listen, we didn't elect Trump, so we didn't also choose for this tariff situation. But not just because we didn't choose for this tariff situation do we need to stay out of the fray with it, but we also know that this whole situation, based on that third video I told you to take a look at, this situation is bigger than what we need to be worried about, bigger than what we should be trying to get our hands tied up into anyway. This is a foregone conclusion. And these businesses, because they are profit focused, will do accordingly as is going to work out for their pocketbooks. But right now, the headlines will always read, just as what bleeds is what leads. They will always read about what it's going to do to you as an individual American, as an individual citizen. And they will tell you it's going to raise your prices, and undoubtedly will. But don't get bent up about this. It just is what it is, just like everything else that was expected when Trump got elected. A lot of folks who supported Trump's election actually have found out, unfortunately, the hard way, that probably isn't going to work out too well for them, right? The conservative mindset is actually a mindset, the policies, the actual philosophy, it really serves people who have something to protect. That is money. That means the most wealthy. That means the people who really just want to keep hoarding wealth. That's what conservatism is about, conserving and also keeping things as the olden age, simplistic livelihood they project used to be. Man and a woman, simple identity ideas, simple money and tax ideas, and free markets that seem to run every entity about our society, including our public health system, privatizing it and doing things like this that allows the government to be downsized, so that now the government's not there to regulate the organizations that are really here about money, right? You see how this all focuses around money. So when we come back to these tariffs, who's really going to lose out here? It's going to be those who don't have money. So with that being the case, it's unrealistic to think that these tariffs, given how wishy-washy they are, that they will create new jobs in America if they're not stable and enforced with a level of certainty that these companies believe. With the president's back and forth, there's going to be a lot of doubt from these companies, just like the young lady in the video spoke on just a moment ago. People are going to question if, he's not going to renege on some of these tariffs, if he's not going to get negotiated down, and then these companies who put in even 3 months of onshoring are going to lose the advantage they claim they would have gotten by coming here and avoiding the tariffs, right? So no matter what, they may not even choose to make the move, right? Because Trump, when you get into it, they got to start calculating how long is he left in office? How long until the Democrats get in and flip it? Heck, you don't even know if it's going to stay in place by the time 2026 comes and you get all these folks up for re-election in the House and Senate. They could put some policies in place to block them if they get Democrats in and then they take majorities. It's too much to really predict what's going to happen given the volatility of this administration. Therefore, a lot of people may not onshore jobs. But another thing I'll tell you is that even if we didn't do tax or import tax, which is tariff, even if we didn't do that, if we were to go around and pretty please ask every company, I'm not speaking for me, or I'm not speaking in unison with the administration as if I support that. I do not support the Trump administration. I did not support or vote for Trump. But what I'm saying is that, let's say the United States goes around and asks all these companies, hey, please bring jobs back. We want more jobs in the US. There's no way to bring jobs from all these other countries they outsource them to and it not drive up the cost of the products here. You know why? Because either you're going to have the one-time cost of relocation, which is going to be moving of equipment or setting up or purchasing of new equipment and training people to get them acclimated and get things running, presuming that material costs and actual operational costs of the people are the same as the foreign countries that they came from, as the processes and the products were coming from. Presuming it's the same, you're still going to have the one-time cost. And guess what? These companies don't want to eat that. Or you're going to have an actual increased cost, because we already know that America believes in a living wage. That's part of the prevailing left rhetoric, and the push is trying to move the needle on the minimum wage up. And so if you're talking about bringing any jobs here, you're going to want them to be good paying jobs, which means that they're probably going to pay more in American dollars than they were paying anyone abroad, right? Because they went over there in the first place. Therefore, there's going to be an increased cost somewhere. And guess what? Again, profit-focused organizations that take advantage of market gaps in order to actually a new revenue that they can then cut corners internally to actually result in a profit. These companies are not going to undercharge, are not going to give you your money back because they came here to produce the goods, right? They came from China, they came from Mexico, they came from Canada and started making it in the US. That vehicle, that widget, that screen, that phone, whatever, it's still gonna cost the same amount of money, if not more. So there's no savings for us. But what will happen is this: if it doesn't go up, they are going to hold that price and then probably make up reasons to raise it. You never know what's gonna happen, but it's not gonna save you any money out of your pocket. Another thing to keep in mind is this tariff issue really being a class issue, right? Because this is not about black versus white, like some of the Black Enterprise or the Root articles might want you to think if you don't read it carefully. This is really about the fact that those who are with and have the means and have control over either production or they have wealth, they will have ways to weather this storm. But it won't even really be that big of a storm for them, because again, they're still sitting at a much higher level compared to the median black wealth position, where you could have people who can't afford groceries in some portions of the black community, given if, you know, some of this stuff goes up by 20% for the cost of food that you would get at the store. If you're not on public assistance or getting some type of aid, this could make a real big dent in your pocketbook if you listen to the media's calculations right now. So at the end of the day, this black issue is something that persisted because we've always been at the bottom of the socioeconomic numbers and the metrics of life. So whether it be, you know, again, a pandemic, it'd be a recession, it'd be a, you know, some type of global issue that leads to supply chains becoming constrained and prices just going up for reasons outside of the United States control. We usually get hit with the issue the worst and first. So like I said, this isn't really our fight because it's a complicated, not complicated, but it is a messy, chaotic storm being fabricated in order to supposedly bring jobs back to the country. There are companies that are going to try to do it, but the real reasoning that they're doing it is going to be partly because they want to avoid the issues of being outstanding and not bringing jobs back, right? Just like the DEI situation, a lot of there was no legislation that forced these companies to get rid of their DEI programs. What happened is they wanted to avoid becoming a target of the Trump administration on social media and potentially have issues getting other resources or set-asides in the future because of their policies. So they decided to just pull out of it entirely. Similarly, with this entire bringing jobs to America thing, a lot of these companies have already had discussions with the administration. They know that if they don't try to do something to react and bring something in here, especially these big Fortune 100 manufacturers, then they're gonna look crazy to the administration. And we only know what he's capable of based on the past, 3 months so far. We still got a whole 3.5 years to go. So these folks will try to do some things. They will try to pay lip service, but this is not a fight that's specific to the black community. This is something that's along class lines. So just like I mentioned with the anti-Elon, anti-fascist, anti-oligarchy movement of the 5051 project, Our demands are different and they're specific to our particular inequity and accrued disadvantage. And that accrued disadvantage has pinned our community into the bottom caste, making us disproportionately vulnerable to things like this, to this type of mess, tariffs, pandemics, recessions, you name it. Everything that's going on, anything that goes on, we usually get the short end of the stick, and we have to deal with that disparity first. I'm not trying to discourage people from being upset. His actions are really, not good. But although we should complain, we should not get drained of our energy in this moment due to what's going on. We need to stay focused. And so I just want to encourage everyone, yes, be aware of what's happening with the tariff situation right now, but don't get in the mix. Don't get too up in the mix. This is a far gone conclusion. We need to focus on our political building and survival so we can land our hands, our wallops, and make the noise we need to make to move the needle in 2026 and in 2028. So I'm gonna leave you with that. I thank you for your time today. Leave me some comments. Let me know. What do you think? Do you think that this is more of a big deal than I'm saying it is for us in terms of what we need to be doing or reacting to? Or is it, as I said, yeah, this is bad. We need to figure out how we're going to make it through it and still build politically to advance our causes during these election cycles coming up. Let's talk about it.